It's always fascinating to study some of the best investors in the world and what they're buying, what they own, and sort of the history of how they may have made money. And one person that you may not think of making this list is Al Gore. But Al Gore actually runs a company that has $19 billion worth of assets. He's also one of Apple's largest shareholders and has been for a very long time. So how exactly did Al Gore get to this position? And what does his company own today? Well, that's what I want to dig into. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. Check out fool.com/ASYM for their top 10 stocks to buy right now. And I just want to start with a quick look at Gore's portfolio. And this is from Generation Investment Management. You can see that this is a $19 billion portfolio. Half of the portfolio is in the top 10 holdings. That includes Microsoft, Amazon, Applied Materials, and then lesser known companies like Thermo Fisher and Trane Technologies. This is a pretty diversified portfolio. I've done a few of these looking at some of the bigger investors in the world, and a lot of them have very concentrated portfolios. This is one that's not as concentrated, much more diversified. And I want to dig into these companies in a second, but let's go back to what exactly Generation Investment is and how did Gore get here. This is a look at Generation Investment site, and there's a lot of talk in here about climate-led investing and sustainability and ESG. I'll get to that a little bit when we look at the portfolio, but that's one of the drivers of this portfolio and how they have raised money over time. But here is what they invest in. They call their strategies: global equity strategy, Asia equity strategy, growth equity. So these would all be buying particularly stocks in companies in these different segments. So different investors are going to want to have different exposure to different segments of the market. And that's what they would do, is give them exposure to those areas. And then private equity is going to be either buying entire companies or buying pieces of companies on the private market. If you go to the mission statement for the company, this is a mission-led firm, is what they say. Seek transformational change to drive to a net zero, prosperous, equitable, healthy, and safe society. So again, that's part of their sales pitch to investors. And the leadership team, the two people who really started this firm, is Al Gore and David Blood. David came from Goldman Sachs, so had a long history in the investment space. And Al Gore was obviously vice president until 2000. And then it was in 2003 that he got a very important job. That was when he was appointed to Apple's board of directors. March 19th, 2003, Apple announces that Al Gore is joining the board of directors. As part of that, he has gotten stock options all the way back to 2003. So this is years before the iPhone was produced. He has been on the board and getting options ever since. And what do you know? He is still there. He is still a board member, along with longtime board members like Arthur Levinson and, of course, Tim Cook, who is now the CEO. But Al Gore actually made a lot of his money by just simply being a board member at Apple. Let's put a little bit of context to that. And this is the current numbers, but based on Apple's most recent proxy, Al Gore has 467,000 shares of Apple stock, so worth about $90 million. And that's before any of the selling that he's done over the last 20 years. So just a tremendous position in Apple for somebody who you may not think of as an investor, but he was actually very early in getting into Apple because he was on the board of directors. So let's go back to the funds portfolio. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So that's a little bit about where Gore came from and the company that he's running, Generation Investment Management. He isn't necessarily overseeing the day-to-day operations of that $19 billion that they manage, but definitely involved in it. And let's dig into a few of these companies because I think these are interesting. The top holding for Generation Investment Management is Microsoft. And you can see that this position has fluctuated over time, owned a very big position in 2015, 2016. That was when the stock was much cheaper than it is today, trading in that 10 to 15 price to earnings multiple. But they picked up that position about 18 months ago. And that's before the recent increase in the share price driven by artificial intelligence and everything that's happened with OpenAI and their partnership there. So that's an interesting stake. And if we look at the next one, which is Amazon, another one that they added about 18 months ago. This is 6 quarters ago from a reporting perspective. And you can see that this is now 9% of the portfolio. So very big position for Generation Investment Management in Amazon on top of Microsoft. Applied Materials sort of fits in that same category, a little bit different place in the value chain, but a technology company providing equipment to semiconductor manufacturers. They have added that. They have actually had this stake for quite a while and added to it over time. And now it's the third biggest position in the portfolio. The fourth biggest is the one that I had to look up. Henry Schein is actually a medical device distributor. It's less than $10 billion market cap company, so relatively small company, but obviously a company that they see a lot of potential in. Price to earnings multiple right now is 22, so a little bit cheaper than some of the tech stocks that they own. And then you get into companies like Thermo Fisher and Trane Technologies, so an HVAC company. Very interesting group of companies, a lot of technology. If you go down the list a little bit, you see stocks like Mercado Libre, we have Texas Instruments. So there's a combination of these technology companies and then the hardware companies that enable a lot of those technologies, and then a lot of just industrial companies, medical device distributor, an HVAC company. So kind of an eclectic group of stocks. What I think is really interesting is to go back to why this company exists in the first place and sort of Al Gore's mission over the last 20, 25 years. Are these climate change related companies? Are these ESG companies? That is maybe a story for a different day. I think at the end of the day, these are probably just very good investments. But I wouldn't say companies like Microsoft and Amazon are leading the way in making the world a greener place. So that was the interesting thing that I took away from this portfolio, is the way that it's framed to investors and then what they're actually investing in and the way that they maybe justify that. But this is a $19 billion portfolio. There are not a lot of companies that get to that size and that scale. And Al Gore is the president of the company, one of the founders of the company. On top of that, he has a long history at one of the best performing stocks over the last 20 years, and that is Apple. So should Al Gore be in the pantheon of investors and best known investors in the world? I don't know. You can maybe make that case because he's gotten in very early on some of these technology trends. Maybe he isn't the best known for that because he's really framed a lot of what he's done in that clean energy space, but a lot of his actual money is in technology stocks. And you see that both in his personal portfolio and the stake that he still has in Apple today, as well as the portfolio of Generation Investment Management. Clearly a more tech-focused investment firm, even though they really talk a lot about ESG and climate change and things like that. Their real focus as an investment, where their dollars are, is in technology. So I think that was an interesting takeaway from when I started digging into Al Gore and the company that he owns. I didn't know much about this company before, but I did know that he's been a part of Apple for a very long time. And that continues to be the case. And who knows, maybe he will be on the board for another 20 years. But what do you think about Al Gore's portfolio? Did you know about his history at Apple? Leave your comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.